Right, so I'd like to wrap up if we can in time, which I think starts at 7:30. We'll have to do our job. But let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna go ahead and, I do. Thank you.
You too.
All right, so go ahead and call to order the January 8th regular council meeting for the town of Little Falls. January 28th, or January 8th, 2026, and begin with our a moment of silence. Amen. All right, because Jolie was able to show up last minute, I need to add. What do we need to add? This new business?
Mhm.
Under new business, we need to add the financial report audit for 2025. We're gonna make that new business item A, and we'll move resolution fixing that to B. So I need a motion to amend the agenda. Scott makes the motion, Jimmy seconds, all in favor, unanimous. All right, now I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Scott makes the motion, Jimmy seconds, all in favor, it's unanimous. All right, so our organizational meeting. Jimmy, are you content to continue as our mayor pro tem?
Sure.
All right, I need a motion to nominate.
Motion nominate.
Okay, Craig makes the motion, Scott seconds, all in favor, unanimous. I'm gonna skip the second one, go on to the municipal auditor. We need to make a motion to, well, there's a reason.
Round us.
We need a motion to appoint Mixon and Mixon as our auditor. Is it Mixon and Mixon?
Some branches, but you're.
Okay, however it goes. To reappoint them as our auditor. Mike makes the motion, Scott seconds, all in favor, it's unanimous.
It's Jolie votes.
Do what?
It's Jolie votes.
Yes. So, need to have a motion to reappoint Judge Sneed as our city judge. Scott makes the motion. Jimmy seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Remaining council liaisons. Scott Water. Mike. Public safety.
Yes.
Craig Streets and Sidewalks. Do I have a motion to reappoint all those positions? Jimmy makes that motion, Scott seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Do we have meeting dates?
There.
Meeting
Second.
dates look good.
Any conflicts that
Just
you all know?
one of them's on my girl's friend, but we'll probably gone. That's, sorry, I'll tell you. Because, I mean, if everybody else is here, it's
March or April.
It's early, a little weird. See. Yeah, it's March 12th.
March 12th.
I think that does interfere with a lot of stuff, so if we want to lose it.
Yeah, so Jimmy, you're gonna have, y'all probably have spring break that same time, March 12th, or a little bit later.
No, our spring break's going to be in April.
Are y'all gonna be in April?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we have at least three of you guys here, I don't have any conflicts right now with any of these.
What are the dates?
March 12th.
Second.
Second page. Oh, sorry, where are the dates about? They didn't give you one, they give you a page.
Even gets,
You see.
dude.
I probably did yours, like.
I've got two of them, it's not sure.
I'll make a motion, we accept them. Is that what we need?
Jimmy
Just a minute,
reviewed
wanna
it,
make
you have
sure
a
that-
copy.
That we don't need to shift one of them.
I may not be invited on to them, but.
Right.
They're all good for me too. Okay.
All right, Scott? Make a motion
I'll make a
to
motion.
accept the meeting schedule.
For 2026,
Second.
yeah.
Mike seconds, all in favor? Unanimous? All right. Deal. All right, and you need to go back to the appointment of our city attorney. Warren called me today and said that their firm is changing their rates, which isn't unexpected. I mean, that happens. But he kind of went back for us and said, hey, can you at least wait until they start their fiscal year? Instead of doing it mid-year,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, that's, so, you know, should I be reappointed, then everything would stay the same until July 1st, be a rating.
So your rate's going, oh, they're not going down?
No,
Unfortunately, they're going up by like roughly 25%.
yeah, it would go from 200 an hour to 250 an hour, but there's 100 to 125 for paralegals. So to kind of put that in some context, in 2019, it was 175, we had 100, and we kept it that rate through, 2024. 200, 100, been that way for 24 since such time. And, while certainly aware of the fact that y'all have less than 200 people, it's not a whole hard to do. The partnership is wanting the municipal practice to have somewhat standardized rates for, kind of these kind of things.
So everything else is going up.
Do you take
Yeah.
public comments during this part, just out of curiosity?
We typically wouldn't, but I mean, I'm not opposed to it if you guys.
I have a quick question on that. I personally find I always get 3 bids no matter what to get a market rate. And hopefully you still end up with the person you got that you want. But it becomes a good topic of discussion, just bid it out to 3 different people, him included. And then have a discussion around the rates, because I mean, if some dumb comes in, that's too cheap. That's someone just trying to steal from you because they're not gonna show up and do a good job. But to 200, 225 versus 250, you might get a more market competitive rate.
We shopped around years ago. They came in as one of the best. I think they still are.
Well, what we've seen in our municipal practice, some of what's driving this is when we put in for several other local governments, we were the lowest, and this is a couple years old, we're the lowest at 200, the next lowest was like 250.
And the other problem is, since we do have ongoing legal issues, it's kind of hard. It's not wise to change course midstream.
I just think you gotta put a value on history.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows the history.
Right.
And that's gonna be worth something.
Right.
And you guys
Exactly.
would be awful. I mean,
Yeah, it
to
takes
try to
so
get him up
long
to
to
speed.
getting up to speed, costs us more money to get him up to speed, her or her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at
Plus
this
the
point, the price.
connections with GMA and everything else that he brings to the table.
So we have some other issues with another project that we're gonna have to talk about in executive session. That they're already aware of, so. So you
I'll make a
Re-
motion.
make a
We,
motion to reappoint with the
Reappoint.
knowledge that we're gonna have the increase.
yeah,
Second.
Okay, Mike seconds, all in favor? It's unanimous. All right, good. Good deal. Do we have? Oh, need to have a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Scott makes a motion, Jimmy seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Attorney report,
I don't have any.
all right, old business, we don't have any. So we're gonna go ahead and move to Jolie's presentation of our audit. And let you be able to get out of here a little bit sooner.
Okay, thank you for having me here tonight. Everything went very well with the audit. Thank you so much for investing in the new software. It was so much easier to navigate and the reports are,
What are you saying about QuickBooks?
oh my goodness. Well, I mean,
Very difficult stuff.
yeah.
No, QuickBooks is horrible for regular small
Which is
businesses.
why I'm here tonight instead of March, right?
Yeah.
Just take a little hot minute with with the QuickBooks. So I know there's still some things you're working out with the property tax module on that, but I know, Linda, you have to like it.
Oh, yeah.
too. So much better. But thank you for making that investment in that, and everything's going great. The only finding we have is the same one we have every year, and that is segregation of duties, because it's mainly Linda. With the exception of Mike, you are coming in, looking, reviewing the bank statements and make reconciliations after the fact, but there is.
I told her you said let them stack up.
Thinking about that deep.
But I do, always need to remind you that you have a very small office staff, you know that, and so there's primarily one person who is handling everything. So that was the finding, and we've had that for the last few years, so that's nothing new. There was a new GASB statement, governmental accounting statement that came out, that affects this fiscal year. So we did have to do a prior period adjustment, and it has to do with compensated absences and the way they wanted us to calculate those. It resulted in a prior period adjustment of a little over 12,000. I think it was, I'll give you the exact amount. 12,866. And it was split between, it was actually split between the general fund, the school zone fund, and water. To coincide with how you all are doing the payroll. So in governmental, which includes general and school zone, that was 11,704, and then the water was 1,162. Not material, but I do need to point that out, because as you're looking through these, you're gonna see that change. And the notes on that are also on page 29 in the audit, so that was a change that we had. The other thing that I was mentioning to Linda, it's something I'd like for y'all to consider, and you don't have to vote on it tonight, I just want you to consider it, is your capital asset policy is really old. For instance, you capitalize everything $500 and up. And, most do anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000. And, when you think about computers and how often you're replacing your computers, to put that on your asset listing for 7 years when you're replacing it before that time period. So I think a capital, increase in the threshold would be good. I also think the useful lives need to be looked at. Like currently for your building, you have 80 years, which is a really long time. Most of what I see is 20 to 50. And there's a range, and it gives you that range because if you have like just a building improvement that you do, it may not need to go for 50 years. It may only need to go for 20 years instead of, 50. So just trying to get you more in line with what I think is up with today's standards. Machinery and equipment, I would recommend between 5 and 15 years. You currently have 7 to 15, so not a big change there. Vehicles, you have 10 to 20 years on there. I would recommend going 5 to 15. You're going a little bit longer with your fire trucks and things like that you're not replacing, but some of your police vehicles, it's very rare to hold on to them for 10 years. Infrastructure, you have 50 years on, I would recommend 20 to 50, just because depending on what it is. And then also with the water distribution center, I would recommend 1 to 20 to 50 years, currently have 40 to 50. So just something to think about, and Linda has this too, so y'all can talk about it and mull it over, and I think Warren mentioned if it's something you want to change, then a resolution can be drawn up, and that way we know for the next audit for fiscal year 2026, we can work within those new parameters. If that's something you all are agreeable to, want to do.
And so we can put that on the agenda, we can workshop that probably, and then. With that, get on the agenda for February to March.
Would that be something you would want implemented at the beginning of the new fiscal year, matters, faith? Not adding. Well, we're not really adding new buildings this cycle.
Right. If you, I'll leave it up to y'all, but if you wanted to make that effective for this fiscal year, that would be fine, because generally. We're looking at that capitalizing at the end, so
So we got it then in the next couple of months, we could.
if you want to, or if
Make it
you wanted to hold it,
retroactive.
if you wanted to go to fiscal year 27. That's fine too, but
Are there any negative effects by changing these?
I just think it needs to be more, the estimated useful lives really should mimic what they are in real life. Honestly, your infrastructure, your water distribution, really you can wait 50 years if you want to, but 40 to 50 years, but if you can be more proactive about it, and this just kind of mimics what's a little bit more of today's. And even with tax, it used to be that everything over 500 was capitalized tax wise now it's 2,500. So.
Yeah, we may need to revisit a few other items on fiscal policies as well. I know right now we have a cap that if something wasn't budgeted and it was more than $500, it has to come to council for approval. The heck, 2 tires for a vehicle that got blown out all of a sudden, that weren't accounted for. You're gonna hit more than that 500, so we may need to revisit some of those policies as well.
There's just policies that have been in place for a long time. And it's always a good idea to revisit and see.
So we may need to workshop some things, come up with some stuff in the next month or two, and see what we can deal with. So.
Okay, you all have the graphs and I'm gonna go over that. You do have a copy of the audit in your blue folders. I'm gonna spend my time on graphing because I think that's where I won't lose you, but when you're looking over this, if you do, and you have questions, feel free to reach out. The first thing we're gonna talk about is the government-wide level. So this includes all funds across the board, okay? So the revenue government-wide was just over 2.7 million for fiscal year 25. Expenses were 718,501. And you can see there was a decrease in revenue, and that was primarily with funds dealing with your school zone, the school cameras. It was about $405,000 difference. And then your expenses also decreased, and they were down by over $50,000 for fiscal year 25. And just for those of you who are new, if you're looking at this comparison from 22 to 23, that big jump in revenue, that was when the school zone camera was implemented. So for 25, the total revenues decreased by 13%. Total expenses also decreased by about 7%. And then there's also the ratios on behind this for the prior years. So you can see that big jump in 23 over 22. So you see that by 281% of the revenues. And then on page 5, you do have a 7-year history of revenues here. So, which is really, the last 3 years are gonna be skewed with the school zone, but very skewed. As far as 7-year history of expenses, you have that on page 6. And, with the school zone, it has allowed you to make some improvements, public safety wise. There were definitely some supplies and equipment that were purchased this fiscal year. And those are the increase in the expenses that you see. has to do with spending those funds and also SPOS, T-SPOS, ARPA. ARPA was expended completely in fiscal year 25, but that's why you see that increase from 23 to 24. And then on slide 7, the summary of total revenue and expense percentages, just so you know, water of your total revenue makes up about 2%. Your taxes make up 12%. Your charges for your services, which include your fines, your license and permits, are 77% of your total revenue. And then intergovernmental revenue are your grants and your SPOST, and that's about 4%. And then your investment earnings were at 5% of your total revenues. You did have some CDs that were cashed in April, and those are all actually in the bank account for that, but you're very, very liquid. And we'll talk about that as well through these pages. Expense wise, as far as departments, water makes up 16% of your total expenses. General government admin is 24%. Public safety, police and courts, 52%, and then fire, 3%, and your public works and streets, 4% total expenses. Any questions so far? Just some things to point out as far as being very liquid. You have $6,313,001 in your cash account, so you're extremely liquid. This in 25, you spent over 209,000 on capital asset additions. And since 2021, you've had a 32% increase in your capital assets, which you're investing in the town. You don't have any debt, just almost unusual in a local government. And the largest portion of your net position, or your equity, so to speak, 64% of that is restricted for public safety. 19% of that is invested in your capital assets, such as your land, your buildings, and your equipment, and your infrastructure. And then over 881,000 is unrestricted and can be used to meet your ongoing obligations to your citizens. So next, I'm going to talk about just the general fund only. So this does not have school zone in it, doesn't have the SPOS or the T-SPOS or ARPA. So this is just general fund. And in fiscal year 25, those revenues decreased by about 45,000 to 492,832. Expenses also decreased by a much larger percentage, by 100,644. Total expenses were actually 336,774. You're able, with that school zone fund, you're able to pay for your police, and fire was moved to that in 25. So those expenses are now being paid out of that fund instead of general. So there is still court that's in general and a little bit of police, but majority is coming out of that school zone. So on page 11, you can see the revenues decreased by 8%. Expenses also decreased by 23%. And then you have the percentages for all the prior years after that. As far as your revenues in the general fund, of course, taxes are going to be the biggest part of your revenue in that fund, and 64% of that is taxes. 26% of that are your charges for services, the fines that come over to the general fund, your licensing and permits, your grants and your SPOS of the intergovernmental revenue is 6%, and then your investment earnings at 5%. Of that 64%, the total tax revenues are around 86% of property taxes. Expense wise, the only change in this graph from the prior year was that there was nothing for fire on here, because that's been moved completely over to the school zone. So general government makes up 46% of your total expenses. Police and courts 49%, and your public works and streets 5%. And just some other highlights, the general fund, its tax revenues have increased by 73% since 2021. That includes all taxes, franchise and insurance premium and property. For expenses, your general administration, this is since 2021, has increased by 29%. Police and courts by 18%, and of course, fire has decreased by 100%. Public and works and streets have decreased 68%. Your transfers to water in fiscal year 25, you transferred 25,000 over to water. There was also some ARPA money spent for water, but those have increased by 108% since 2021. In the general fund, your average monthly expenses totaled $28,065 a month. In comparison to last year, the last fiscal year was $36,452. So liquidity wise, you have over 29 months of liquidity in the general fund, which is extremely high, very, almost unheard of, really. Do you see that much? I don't either. In your enterprise fund, your water fund, your revenues were down a little bit. They were down by 16,000 to 109,753, and expenses were up slightly. Total expenses were 62,925. They were up $764 over the prior year. So in 25, revenues increased by 1%. Revenues increased by 1%. I'm sorry, I had that backwards up here. Your expenses were 109,753, and those decreased from the prior year, and your revenue went up slightly by 764. I need to change those colors because I'm used to seeing green for revenue instead of blue. So expenses decreased by 13% in the water fund in comparison to fiscal year 24. Now, in this fund, one of the things we like to do is to show you of the water charges that you have, how much of that is covering your total expenses in this fund. And so for 2025, 57% of what you're charging covers your expenses. So that's the extent of your service charge. That actually did increase over fiscal year 24 when it was 47%.
Why have the water revenues gone down since 2020?
Hard to say. I think the park uses a lot less water than they used to. Maybe it's a repair that they made on, some of their leaks and whatever, but I think that's our biggest water customer, so anything they do fluctuates our revenue more than most other things, but.
It's $30,000.
Yes.
It's a third.
Yeah.
Yeah, they use less water overall, but it's just a building. So our rates, of course, we just implemented a new rate structure, so now we just billed on the first new rate this month, so hopefully that'll help, but it's interesting that, it's gone down.
To look at it. Any other questions?
Would you know, where does, our self-sufficiency on water compared to other towns of our size?
It's low.
It is.
It's low. Most try to. Most that I see are at least around 80 or above. But it's one of those things, it's almost like Warren mentioned, with you keep your rates so low for so long and you hate to, when you do have an increase, then it's a big jump. So.
Yeah, we tried to fix that.
This year, I thought.
Creating it where it's gonna be tied to an annual increase
Okay,
from now on, based on what Georgia Rural Water will submit back to us. Because, yeah, we we change and we wait 20 years, we change again and freaks people out.
And your costs are going up, and they have been going up since, 2020.
So we gotta get ahead of that.
And just number of customers, I mean, a few customers have gone to wells, back when we were having so many problems and. It's just
We also
people
have-
using less water.
Yeah, we also have homes sell and then the new owners aren't here full time. So that reduces the water usage on those locations, so.
And two of my girls went to college, really.
That's what happened.
That was it. That is it.
Teenage girls.
So between the last slides, the capital slide, this is just a capital condition ratio that we run, and it just analyzes the condition assets to their age and their remaining useful life. So you all are at 64%. You're still making systematic investments in capital assets. And I know we still have some projects out there from a capital asset standpoint, so I expect that ratio will probably increase this fiscal year maybe, if some things get done. But along that line, you all are still have some SPOS 6, some SPOS 7, and some T-SPOS funds that are there and available. And it's kind of unusual to see it just kind of being kept there for years and years and years. So I would encourage you to really, those projects that you put in for those SPOS, to really look at that and try to get this in.
We've got some of the T-Splosh and some other things, we've got a project for our road sidewalks, pedestrian safety coming up, we've got it in the works. So, yeah, we're definitely trying to move that direction, so.
Some of the 6, I think was. Well, we've got
There's
recreation.
public parks and
and,
recreation, we
yeah,
gotta
so they've
deal
got
with.
to
And public buildings, I think.
do whatever we're gonna do and move it to. Project Water or whatever that we actually.
Yeah. And this is in your audit too, it's actually on page 32, if you want to see your SPOS, but. You saw some Raven County SPOS from 13 on roads and bridges, and with the T-SPOS, it makes it even more of a challenge, I guess, because. Now you've got the T-SPOS that will handle the roads and the bridges, but you also have that built in, so. I would just encourage y'all to look at that. From SPOS 6. Really, recreation projects is the only thing that hasn't been used at all, and we had 25,000 allotted to that. And nothing's been used so far with SPOS 7.
It can grow stale like that. We have some other governmental clients with the SPOS funds from around the 2012 era.
Yeah,
And every year the auditor says the exact same thing.
well, and I don't know, with the public safety in these SPOS, now that you have the school zone, and you can only spend it for public safety, Warren, you would know better than I would if they can reallocate that to like a water.
Need to reallocate it to public safety for 6 and 7, and you do.
If the projects that were specified in there are infeasible, or you're gonna abandon, you can should.
Yeah, a lot of times we have to save several years because we don't get a lot of money.
Right,
So that's the reason you don't see it go out the door, because the
Right.
project we do is way over the budget.
Yeah.
That's the general.
especially roads.
Right, roads,
Yeah,
I can't get
we were-
Right.
$1,000.
Typically very general in I don't think we ever specified
Specific.
projects in any of our SPOS, so if we come up with a small project we wanna use that SPOS money for, and then say, okay, we'd match that, then we can reallocate to roads or.
As long as it was covered under the original SPOS, then you can.
You know what I wanna do, I wanna move that public safety money to the roads and fix that bridge right there.
I'd like to fix that bridge.
I know, but I need money.
I don't know.
I didn't,
I think 20 years ago it was $300,000.
yeah.
So, yeah, we're gonna figure out what to do about that.
Yeah.
Get some money from the state if we can. So,
So the last thing, just in the water fund. And we have talked about your water, since 2021, the water revenues have decreased by 33%. Expenses have increased by 21. We've already talked about the transfers, but your average monthly expenses in water are $9,146 a month. And that has decreased from 24 when it was 10,512. So the liquidity in the water fund is about 7 months in comparison to general fund at 20. Which is really not a surprise because it's kind of been that way. But any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you for burning that midnight oil to show up and do this.
Actually, it's, we
Yeah,
said we
you're-
were gonna be able to, I said, can I come?
Yeah, you're about to get into a really busy season.
And it's fresh on my mind, so I just finished up, so it's good. Yeah. So,
Well,
thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Made perfect sense.
All right, so, I'm a little curious about the next resolution fixing and publishing qualifying games, because we don't have an election this year.
We don't, and I started to take it off, but, it's on my calendar to put on, we have to publish it by February of every year, so it's just on my calendar to do it every year, so. If anything happens,
We're covered.
covered.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if I decide I'm gonna quit tomorrow, then we'd have to have an election at some point this year, so. Okay, all right, any questions about, I don't think there are any changes to it.
So just need to make a motion next, allow you to sign all those.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I make a motion.
Craig makes a motion, Scott seconds, all in favor, unanimous. All right, mayor's comments, just for the public record, we are aware that Demarest is trying to, or has at least looked at the option to condemn some property here in town. At the end of, well, it's at the end of the property that we own and adjacent to some property that the Urbans own. that is
Disputed,
on the lake.
disputed on your ownership. That's part of the whole thing. Sorry, continue.
Just whatever, just don't anymore. Okay, we own that property. Free and clear.
As-
We have a deed, you haven't shown anything showing that you own or your dad owns or anybody else owns it. You haven't paid taxes on it if you did own it. We own that property, free and clear. No
That's
more,
what you believe. I understand where you're coming
no
from.
more, no more. Okay, enough of that. So. Property that was previously owned by the Beavers and somebody else. It looks like it had sold recently, December 3rd. Demarest was looking to condemn that property. I'm not exactly sure 100% why, because they haven't told me. I theorize it is for a water withdrawal permit from the lake.
Mhm.
So that's all I know, and I'm speculating on the other. I just want it out there on the record that we are aware. I've been talking to Cornelia and Demarest. There's some new meetings coming up. Demarest canceled a public hearing that was supposed to have been held Tuesday about that. So there's some other conversations about to happen about that, because the property the town does actually own is adjacent to the lake and might be a better solution for Demarest, Cornelia, or whoever. So we'll be talking about that in the future. Outside of that, I don't have any more comments. I will open the floor to public comments.
You wanna go first? I got a ton.
Go for it.
All right.
I might have some after you.
I hear you. Let's jump into this thing. So according to Demarest, they have had discussions with Tallulah Falls in the past over this project. Not the town council, but the mayor. Maybe it wasn't early, maybe this was a long time ago, maybe it was another mayor. Just, that's the facts that I've been told. I guess based on his comments, I can now understand why this was not discussed in a public forum before Demarest tried to snag this money. Because I really have it hard to imagine that everyone up on that mountain wants a 10-acre water treatment plant on the lake. And they're condemning 10 acres. Not one, not an intake valve, not an intake house and pumping raw water 5-10 miles away. 10 acres. And I've been in discussions with Denver's recently because of all this. Question is, again, based on mayor's comments, I now understand why this was not talked about with Raven County water and sewer, because the property is in Raven County. I'm pretty sure they'd probably be interested. Because water infrastructure eminent domain in Georgia has probably happened 2 to 3 times over the past 150 years for over 5 acres. So currently, I guess we probably don't know if it's currently zoned for that. But I would love to hear from the council, probably not tonight because this is all getting dropped on you like a bomb. Are you in favor of that rezoning of that property for whatever it would have to be?
Are you?
So as the new owners of the property that they're trying to condemn and take. I don't know, it's in the family company, that's my uncle and dad predominantly. I like Demorest. I like the mayor, like the town council, I like the city manager Musselwhite, get along with them great. I think a 10-acre water treatment plant. Lord knows if I did it personally, everyone would come down here with pitchforks. So I'm on the fence, to be honest. That's why I'm willing, and my family's willing to talk to Demorest about it. Personally, just me, not the company, because I am one person, love the idea of an intake house and pipe that pumps it to whatever water treatment plant they want. We need water. I understand that. The rumor going around is that this is for data centers that are down past Cornelia or wherever they're gonna be. Data centers are massive. Now, if Demorest puts in a water treatment plant to fund data centers, I got a lot of commercial property. Nobody in this town wants me building a data center in Toledo Falls, for sure, and I don't want to. So, I know it's kind of a mixed answer, but I'm against a 10-acre water treatment plant.
Okay,
It would cause irreparable harm to my project next door.
can I pause you there for just a moment and say that maybe we need to have some conversation on the side because there may be some misinformation or misunderstandings on some of this.
Yeah, public forum, let's do it.
No, I mean, I have to be cautious
I hear that.
because we're buying water from Dennis.
Oh, I understand that.
So is there a way that,
Well, I mean, there's nothing for you to respond to. This got dropped on you like a bomb.
I didn't know until
That's crazy.
I got a text message from a resident that showed me these signs on Sunday this week, showing that Denver's was gonna condemn those properties, and I like freaked out. I even texted our attorney on a Sunday and said, hey, can they do that? What the heck? You know, they're outside the district, so I don't wanna say too much too soon, so. Anyway, I just want you to know that you might not understand where I'm sitting right now and where the council is sitting just yet. We gotta process some of that.
Oh, yeah, you gotta process a lot. I just
so,
think everyone in
think-
the town wants full transparency all the time. I'm not personally a fan of backdoor conversations. I don't think that's what you're saying either.
No,
But
no,
I
it's
just want to
just,
be very clear, transparency is key.
so there's more conversation to be had, I believe, about this. I think you hit on some things that I've discussed with our attorney that might help us hold a little firmer hand,
Look at it back.
we may have some aces up our sleeves about this project, about this issue, so at least I can't say too much too soon, so. I would like to be able to leave it at that for now, but I would be happy to have a one-on-one conversation to ease any concerns or tensions if possible.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet with the council whenever they want.
Okay.
That was my first topic. Second topic, obviously, y'all have the deeds, whatever they're called. I'm not a legal person, right? I think it says bill of sale or something on it, but easement deeds for the water infrastructure and the road. Obviously, we missed the 2025 deadline. To be very blunt, I'm gonna blame that on myself for me getting the docs to probably way too late in the holiday season. That being said, would love to get that signed, would love to get it done, so I cannot be a thorn in anyone's side, and I can just live my life. Caveating all that. Since the settlement has been done, there has been road work, there has been water work. If I wanted to be a real pain in the ass about it, theoretically, I don't know if that could be allowed until the bill of sale or whatever it's called, easement deed, transfer deed is signed and done. So all I am begging at this point is to let's get it signed and let's be done.
All right. Third,
I think that was it.
that's it, okay. All right, got anything? Anyone online? All right, we will go ahead. We do need to have executive session. We're gonna go in for all three reasons, personnel, property acquisition and potential litigation issues. So I need a motion. Go into executive session. Scott makes a motion, Jimmy seconds, all in favor? Most unanimous. We'll say unanimous. All right, so we need to go ahead and close the meeting and, Taxes, I do mortgage company, kind of taxes, that's why we have this, put it on the list with my signature.
Got that.
And there are 2 pages in here,
Got
here and here, who's gonna achieve this.
Okay, well, that.
So. All right, I need a motion to come back in regular session. Scott makes a motion, Mike seconds, all in favor? Unanimous?
And do we need to appoint the city attorney? Did we?
We did.
We already did.
Okay, good.
So we are,
You voted for it.
there's no other business for the town. So a motion to adjourn. Scott makes the motion. Craig seconds, all in favor. I'll even vote. Thank you, guys. Yeah, thanks, guys. We're gonna make it home in time for the kickoff.
I'm glad
Barely.
y'all are-
Hey,
Barely.
good luck.
What game are you talking about?
The Ole Miss over the football.
Georgia.
Oh, I said
If the
Georgia's
coach-
not playing, I don't
If our
care.
coaches would quit